Hello, I'm Poopak, and I want to share my remote engagement during COVID-19. And I'm a PhD student, so this has been part of my PhD. So briefly, I just wanted to highlight that my research question of my PhD has been how can interaction design be used as an approach to explore promoting respect among young adults in Scotland in an online environment in the context of cyberbullying. And I employed co-design. Co-design basically refers to participatory approach to designing interventions, solutions in which participants are treated as equal collaborator in design process. I recruited 6 participants. Their involvement included online semi-structured interviews, online group workshop, basic activities. So basically the first step was online interview, and I prepared the questions in relation to each participant's background, and the questions basically focus on my research aims and objectives and participant roles as stakeholders. So basically, online interview in comparison with face-to-face interview, in the positive side, because there is not any transportation cost or time, so it saves time and money for both parties, and it's easier to set an interview days according to both availabilities. Online engagement could also possibly limit researcher visual information, and this could be important, especially when you're working on sensitive topics as my project. And so it's one of the things you could do. You could basically, it's important to check or double check your research question, whether they would have negative impact on your participants' mental health. You should also make sure you have enough support for your participants if it needed. You could also, before online interview, it's important to consider how you're going to make your participants feel comfortable, what you're going to do if your participants feel confused, and how you're going to give confidence if you think or your participants says that it doesn't feel comfortable. And also, it's important to make sure you're not introducing bias to participants. This could be also relates to face-to-face interview as well. So the next step for participants' engagement was to participate in a remote interactive activities, which I call it booklets. Due to the sensitiveness of my project, which was cyberbullying, I was looking for an inspiring and creative ways of engaging with participants that could provide more time to rethink and reflect on the matters. Adding to that, during the interview, participants were also challenged by the questions of the definition of the matters, some of the questions in the interview basically. And for example, when I asked about what does it mean respect an online environment, and they refer to this as a big word or complex word. As a result, in order to engage with participants in the physical and online environment and collect more meaningful data, I developed Starter Kit. It's basically intended to provide a further opportunity for participants to rethink and reflect on project scopes and questions. And it's almost something similar to a mini mobile workshop that could create a real workshop experience for participants at their homes. Similar to workshop, Starter Kit had all the materials they needed to complete the activities, such as you can see here, pens, marker, post-it notes, glues, prepared envelopes, snacks, and the booklets. And the booklets basically holds all the activities where participants could elaborate on their thoughts, beliefs, experience, and knowledge and ideas. So as you can see here, basically before all the activities, I explained the activities and the purpose of each activity is clearly. This allowed me to collect relevant data and assure me that participants' interpretation of activities are quite similar to what the activity is intended to be. So here you can see here is basically the first activities where participants introduce their character. And in the first activities, they were also asked to think about an understanding of respect in an online environment in scenario. The second activities were basically focused on the ideas that participants could think this could help to improve, could promote respect in an online environment. Here is the second activities. And here is the first activities, basically focus on the factors could promote respect from the perspective of different stakeholders in different environment. As you can see, all these activities have been as simple as possible and interactive to make it more pleasant. So basically, the idea of interactive activities allowed adding a new dimension to keep participants engaging in participating in the activities. It brought attention to details and enabled understanding ideas, concepts, and questions in an enjoyable way. It could also build a positive connection that allowed for more interaction between participants and myself as a researcher, given the limited time commitment for the project. So overall, the activities were easy to understand for participants with different backgrounds in an interactive way, according to the research aim and objectives. In the positive side, participants could complete the activities whenever they have time. And also, one of them highlighted the activities could help them. It was really helpful because it helped triggering thoughts and getting ideas. And on the negative side, I could say designing this remote activities, it was really time consuming, and especially considering COVID-19, everything has to be prepared for at least 2-3 weeks in advance. And because I wanted to put everything in a box and make sure they haven't been touched for at least a decent amount of time to make sure everything is safe in terms of COVID-19. And also, I want to highlight here that people with different backgrounds and knowledge could be involved. If they could possibly involve in your project, and completing this kind of remote activities might take more than what you planned initially. And I think considering participants' time commitment, this is also important to consider. So the next step was online workshop. So basically, online workshop happened on Miro and Zoom. There were 2 activities they engage in. Similar to face-to-face workshop, you should start online workshop with Icebreaker Activity. Icebreaker Activity has been really important for my project because I wanted to, first of all, make them feel relaxed and comfortable in the Zoom environment. And I have been using this as an effective tool for setting a scene for the workshop. And basically, because the workshop related to the future and it's about digital technology, so I started posing the question of how do you want the world to exist? And I started answering it. And basically, I started talking about what would be the future if it really depends on digital technology. And all the participants start to engage in thinking about how the future would look like if everything depends on digital technology. Overall, it helped participants share similar values and understanding of the future of digital technology ethically. So here is the first activity. You can see here is on Miro platform. So the first activity basically focus on the support journey of young adults. And here is the second one, focus on the opportunities to reduce cyberbullying and maximize respect. So for this basically activities. I gave 15 minutes time to participants to think about the opportunities or ideas for both of the activities and on Miro. And then after that, in a group, we started talking and brainstorming of which one of the ideas could really work and start to discuss this in a group on Zoom platform. So here is the final workshop. So the final workshop was evaluation workshop, and basically for that workshop, I gathered all participants' ideas from interviews, booklets, and workshops. I gathered them, I categorized them into groups, and then participants start to vote these ideas and then discuss if the ideas would work, if it doesn't work, if the steps would work or doesn't work. And so basically, if you're going to engage with participants on different online platform, the first step is to make sure if they know the online platform. And in my case, some of my participants didn't know, they've never heard about Miro platform. So before the workshop, I shared a short YouTube video explaining how to use Miro. In addition, during the workshop, I again remind them how to use Miro in about maybe 5 minutes. Miro has been a great user-friendly online platform, allowing participants to share their thoughts, experience, and knowledge toward the workshop activities remotely. Also, Miro boards have been really inspiring and helpful toward designing workshop activities as well. So again, it depends on your project, but it's important, I think, to share a Miro link before the workshop activities to make sure all participants could access to the Miro boards and activities before the workshop. In my case, I shared Zoom link about a week in advance and Miro link about a day in advance. And also it's important to consider how much your participants comfortable using Miro. For example, for older generation they might not be really comfortable using Miro. So you should also consider that, and what happened if during your workshop one of the participants couldn't really engage. You should consider other options for that participants as well. Also, maybe, again, it depends on your project. You might give opportunities for your participants to access to the activities later on, for example, to come back to edit or reflect or to comment, but it depends on your project. It's also important to consider Miro has a free plan, but with that plan, you cannot export a good quality image of your activity. And because that, I had to actually pay. And another important thing to consider is the number of participants in an online workshop. So if it's your first time running an online workshop, it's important to have as less participants as possible. For example, I recommend 2 or 3 or 4 because basically participants could easily unmute themselves and talk over other participants. So it's important to consider how you're going to manage all of those. And quite similar to face-to-face bullying, you should start with ground rules and tell participants what they should do, respect, follow, and consider, like in advance in the beginning of the workshop. Also, when you're working with digital technology, always technical problems or issues could happen. For example, as I said before, they might not be really comfortable using Miro. Or for example, in my evaluation workshop, I was planning to use voting feature of the Miro, but a couple of participants couldn't really use voting, so I had to replace it with just post-it notes. And here are the resources for this online engagement. And thank you very much for listening. Here are my email address, and I will be happy to answer your questions. Thank you.